We're delighted to be joined by Edward Cox. He's the chairman of the New York Republican State Committee, a renowned New York City attorney specializing in securities and corporate finance. And as you may know, he's the son-in-law of former President Richard Nixon. Nice to have you with us, Edward.
Ashley, good to be with you.
As head of the New York Republican Committee, do you envision your party making a comeback in a very blue state?
Well, it is a very blue state, as blue as Massachusetts. You couldn't be bluer than New York. But we've already made a comeback. In the last two elections, in the November '09 and November 2010 elections, the result is we've won back the state Senate. We went from 2 members of Congress to 8 members of Congress. We picked up 6 seats from the Democrats, more than any other state. Ohio got 5 and Pennsylvania got 5, others had less than that. We picked up a number of assembly seats, and we have 14 of the 17 county execs, and those are the most important counties outside of New York City. We had a huge success over this. And furthermore, the governor, our present governor, Cuomo, has been running like a Republican, talking fiscally conservative talk. Now, whether he walks the walk or not is another question.
State Republicans regained control of the New York State Senate, as you alluded to last election. You managed to bring the Democrats' veto-proof majority in the Assembly down below the threshold. How significant were those pickups, considering the voters elected a very liberal governor, Andrew Cuomo?
Oh, those are very significant wins. But I want to correct you on something. When we had those great victories in November of '09, where we beat Tom Suozzi, who was the county exec of Nassau County, we won that. We won 2-1 Democratic Westchester County. Andrew Cuomo's antenna went up, and he knew he had to run as a fiscal conservative, and he ran as a fiscal conservative. So that helped him win the governor's race and helped the rest of his ticket. But picking up the Senate was absolutely crucial to win that majority. And in New York State, that was tough to do, but we now have a majority in the state Senate. And the Assembly, in that whole cycle, we went from 39 seats to 51 seats. And as you say, it's no longer a veto-proof Democratic Assembly.
Speaking of Cuomo, what kind of a job do you think he's doing so far?
Well, he's been talking our talk, and I think he will not raise taxes, but I'm not sure he understands pro-growth policies. New York is the highest tax state in the United States. We need to cut taxes if we're going to come back and bring jobs back to New York and get New York back as the great state that it once was.
Okay, the governor in your neighboring state, Chris Christie, has proven himself to be very tough in negotiating with government employee labor unions. How's Cuomo handling that situation in New York?
He's done it the other way. He called them the special interests that were attacking him in the state of the state. When he set up his task force, those special interests became stakeholders in those task force. And they are there negotiating with them. He's giving them something, getting something from them, and doing that, he's having them swallow some tough medicine. On the other hand, they're getting some things that make them structurally stronger over the long haul. And the basic changes that are now being made in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, those changes are not happening in New York. As a result, New York is becoming less competitive compared to the other states, and the exodus of jobs and business will continue until we have good Republican policies that are pro-growth put in place.
Okay, you served in the Ronald Reagan White House as general counsel to the United States Synthetic Fuels Corporation. Its focus was alternatives to imported fossil fuels. Now, considering the sky-high price of oil and gasoline these days again, do you think we may have dropped the ball a bit on alternative energy development?
Not at all. But if you take a look at alternative energy going forward, we need to be energy independent. Something that my father-in-law, President Nixon, started, energy independence. And the Obama administration is not doing anything about that. They're focused on solar and wind. Now, that's good, but minimal impact on our energy situation. What we really have here in the United States is huge supplies of natural gas, and the administration should be encouraging the extraction of that natural gas from shale, a lot of other ways, and the use of that gas not just for turbines to make electricity, but also for transportation. Natural gas can be converted into fuels and be used in transportation in substitute for oil. And if we do this and do it effectively, we'd no longer be at the mercy of people who do not like us in the Middle East, where we import a lot of our oil from now.
Why do you think Democrats are relentless in their opposition to expansion of domestic oil exploration here?
I think it's very irrational. I think they just say, we don't like oil. We don't like big oil. Big oil is bad. Well, it's very important that we develop our natural resources here for use. And we can do it environmentally in a safe way, but we just have to do it, and we have to drill and do it. And people are beginning to realize that.
Okay, finally, your father-in-law, former President Richard Nixon, was known for his foreign policy successes, like opening up the doors to diplomacy with communist China. If he were alive today, what would he say about the way Obama is dealing with pro-democracy movements in Iran, Egypt, and Libya?
He always believed that the United States should take leadership in these things. And he did that, whether it was the opening to China, whether the trip he went to Moscow after that. He had a strategy, and he executed that strategy, even when he was alone. And others in his cabinet did not agree with him, and it was successful because he knew what he was doing. Mr. Obama doesn't have that experience. And so, like Jimmy Carter, he is going from one thing to the other. Gaddafi has to leave. No, we don't mean that he should leave. Yes, he does have to leave. The object of the no-fly zone is not to get rid of him. Well, we would like... the United States has to be consistent, has to lead, and Mr. Obama does not understand that, and is looking a lot more like Jimmy Carter. And we know the disaster that happened when he handled the Iranian situation, and we're still suffering from that because the Ayatollahs now control Iran because President Carter was indecisive.
Edward Cox, a pleasure, sir. Thanks so much. Appreciate it here.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.